Welcome to the Wake Up Dad Show, a Daddiest production. This podcast is for you, Dad. This is where we talk about all things related to dadhood, from parenting to relationships to financial and physical health. Your hosts, Dr. Scott and Dr. Evan, are two dads who are committed to helping you. Join our Facebook community by searching Daddiest, where conscious dads connect and collaborate.
Hey dads, welcome to another episode of the Wake Up Dad Show. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Scott Vatcher, and Ev is not on the call today. So it's just me and my mate Clinton hanging out. I'm going to introduce Clinton here. I'm going to give the proverbial stuff that he sent through to tell me about how amazing he is. So I'll read that out first, and then we'll have a real chat, a real down-to-earth chat. I don't think we need Ev. I don't think Ev's going to provide any value for this call. Between me and Clint, we don't need anyone else. We're going to do it. So here he is, Clinton McCauley. He's a change agent. He's been involved in the personal development space for over 25 years. When he first picked up the book, Think and Grow Rich, can you believe that was one of the first books I ever read? And my mother gave it to me. Believe it, I was blown away, and it was absolutely one of my favorites. Since he was very little, he's always wanted to help people, and from a very young age, he was determined to be in the medical field. Again, I was going to be a medical doctor too. Now, in your case, a severe back injury led him into chiropractic in his early teens, and from then he went on, knowing that he would help through chiropractic. I didn't have such a cool story. I just didn't get into med school and went to chiropractic. That's sort of true. I'm sure people have heard my story before here on the podcast. It's a little bit more in depth than that, but I don't have a cool hurt my back story and get amazing results. He got very deeply involved in learning about human behavior, psychology, spirituality, personal transformation, and the power of the mind. And he's attended workshops around the world over the last 20 years. He's facilitated, presented, and assisted workshops and on stage throughout Australia and New Zealand, and brings a very unique perspective into the world of personal transformation and the experiences he's gained over that time. We're going to dive deep into that today because we've got a really cool, he's started a really amazing movement, and there's an awesome sort of, I'll call it a seminar to get together coming up that we'll let everyone know about. Clinton's has been business and life coaching people for 15 years. He's transformed people, thousands of lives around the world. This is where his true strength and power lies, in experiential workshops. And, you know, I'm going to do my absolute best to get along to this one on the Gold Coast. Super excited about that. His mission on the planet is to transform lives and inspire others to be the best version of themselves possible. He's based in the Adelaide Hills in South Australia. And I lost my place. And he travels all over the world. He's got three amazing teenagers. All girls? No, boy and two girls.
Yep.
Yep, boy and two girls. Yep. And amazing partner Karen, and she's doing her own cool stuff in the women's movement, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well, called Big Sis Australia. And outside of this, he's a health nut. He goes to the gym, goes to the beach, travels, thoroughly enjoys trading on the foreign exchange. That one we might have a quick little chat about too, because I have no idea. Yeah. So welcome to the show, Clinton.
Scott, great to have you. What a great intro, mate. Did you make all that up?
I just looked it up on the internet, and that's what I found.
Fantastic. Look, thanks for having me on the podcast, mate. As you know, I especially love the Facebook page that you have set up, and love contributing. Have a lot of chuckles and laughs at some of the posts that you and Evan put on. But it's a fabulous movement, and so well needed. So glad I can jump on and talk about what I'm doing and how closely what you do is to my heart as well. So thanks for having, and three kids. Mine are on the back end of nearly all grown up, but still two living at home full time with me, and there's just so many little amazing tips and pieces that I read from you guys, and also being on the back end, I know there's some wisdom I've had learned over the last 20 years of having kids that I can share as well. So, mate, well done for setting that up, and the million dads is definitely going to get there very quick. Thanks for having me on board.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for being there. I know you're going to contribute greatly. You already have, and this movement that you're creating too. I feel like there's some collaboration coming up in the future between us for sure. We've talked about it so many times about catching up. I remember we probably met each other, I reckon, 10 years ago at a chiropractic seminar. And, you know, instantly we just had rapport and got along. And, you know, I haven't seen each other much, but when we see each other at seminars, I always catch up, good man hug, and, you know, keep going. Yeah. So, I love what you're doing as well. And that's what I really want to just dive deep into, because I think that's where we can provide the most value for the people on the podcast is your unique perspective on what you do for men and what you're doing, this new movement that you're now part of. I know you've done a lot of work facilitating with seminars and assisting in seminars, and you've, you know, taken that huge step, that big giant leap to start doing it yourself. And, you know, that's absolutely incredible. So let's start there. You tell me about it. I reckon we're just going to end up, that's all we're going to end up talking about. Well, let's find out. Let's go.
All right, thank you. Well, look, what as you said, the first thing I want to do is really add some value to this podcast. So it's not just this is not a promotion stuff. So I think the number one thing that I'll say, and I'll tell you a bit about how it all started. But mate, I had a vision 12 years ago of just how big I wanted to play this game of life, and we ran. So I run a company now called Planet Personal Growth. So I'm still practicing chiropractor, and I know that's changing as this gets busy, and it's gotten busy really, really fast. I had this vision 12 years ago where I was actually not well. I had this migraine for 7 days, and you know, usually if I get a migraine, it's once in a blue moon. It lasts about 6 hours, and I need to have a go and sleep, and it's done. But this thing was a real hit. I was moving from North Queensland down to Adelaide. There was resistance. I really didn't want to go, and you know, from an energetic point of view, headaches and migraines can be an unwillingness to let go. So the funny thing is this vision. I just heard this voice in my head about day 4. Had a high temperature, and it just basically, excuse me, I won't swear, but this voice in my head goes,
you can totally swear on this show.
All right, okay, great. All right, so it goes. So this voice in my head goes, when the fuck are you going to let go? And I was just like, oh my God, you know, I was pity party and feeling sorry for myself. And it was just this booming, resonant voice. And I just say I was having conversations with God, higher self. You know, I just go, someone jumped into my head and I've just gone, now. And and while I was there was a couple other words said, but I ended up having 4 hours of conversation. And what I said was, well, while you're here, what am I on this earth? What am I on this earth for? I still had this funniness, and for 4 hours went through this vision of my purpose and what I was doing in life and where I was going to go. And all at the same time, I had this awareness going, wow, I'm burning up. I got analytical, going, God, I better not faint. You know, am I going crazy? There's voices in my head, and still listening at the same time. So it was sort of this mumble jumble. But what really hit me was when we ran the Awakened Man seminar 6 weeks ago in Melbourne. It was about 3 weeks before that. So this is 12 years after. I completely unwrapped that gift of that vision and really, really saw that I was stepping into this vision that I'd had, 12 years ago. So, what I just say, first point out there is, God, guys, if you've got a dream and a goal, keep going, go for it. If you really believe in it, you're going to get challenges, things are going to get in the way, kids are going to come along. But remember, if you live your life to that purpose and vision, the people around you are going to be even more inspired by what you do. And if you're a single dad, Karen, my partner, lives on the Gold Coast. I'm in Adelaide, so I have a long distance relationship. So I'm in a relationship, but I'm a single dad. And I haven't let that stop me. And the more I run to my vision, the more connected I get to my kids. And I just posted the other day, I had a massive wrestle with my son. It was been a little bit long time in between drinks. 10:30 at night, he was meant to be in bed 45 minutes before, and we ended up wrestling for over half an hour. And it was just so good to connect and rumble and wrestle, and he's getting a lot stronger. So I've actually got to start really working hard for it now. It's a bit scary. But all I say, first number one message is, don't lose sight of the vision. Challenges are going to get in your way. Obstacles are going to get in your way. keep doing. Sometimes you might have to put it aside for a while, but I tell you what, when the first drum beat happened, there's a lot of ritual that we use. I've got this amazing Native American drum made by the Lakota Indians and painted by a lady. Her name is Sonia Holy Eagle. So I've got this great masculine, feminine drum. My ritual name is Soaring Eagle, and it's got this beautiful eagle on it. And I had the honor of having this man who did the drum beat, and it was a dad, and his son was on the first workshop as well. So, talk about that. It was just so amazing. And just that first drum beat, I had tears rolling down my cheeks as I realized that drum beat was the first heartbeat of a vision that I'd had 12 years ago. So keep going, keep going. So I just wanted to add that in because it's really, really important. Where this all birthed from, mate, was that 12 months ago, I just looking at the stats of suicide and the stress of men, and a lot of single men out there that are really, really struggling, a lot of men out there really struggling, and the added stress of being a dad and a provider and all that sort of stuff it's getting profoundly high. And it was really time that I said, there's got to be something I can do much greater than the one-on-one with chiropractic. And that's always been wonderful. And I really sat in it and really looked around. I've done a lot of, retreat style experiential workshops, and there's such a lacking for it. So, this workshop is not, it dives deep into our psychology. And what I wanted to talk about and share some stuff first is really looking at, we go in depth into looking at our subconscious programming. And what we do is we play a lot of games and do a lot of processes. So rather than sitting in a writing, we play games. And they're all subconsciously designed games. So you may play one game, go, yeah, that was really cool, or have no idea what you did that for. Then we play another one, and all of a sudden the fourth game comes in, and then all the jigsaw pieces fall into place. And you see guys just stand there just dumbfounded going, oh my God, that's what I'm doing with my kids, or that's what I'm doing in my wealth, or that's what I'm doing at work, or that's why I'm so struggling as a provider. So it's really, it's designed to hit that subconscious level. And the thing is that, as you know, affirmations will work over a long period of time, right? But the reason why affirmations like going, I'm awesome, or I'm wealthy, it's a conscious thought trying to change a subconscious pattern. And as we know, subconscious patterns rule, and they will hit us over and over. So our whole role is to push that comfort zone, because the comfort zone is designed from a subconscious level to protect and make you survive. So, great example is if you're struggling financially and there's a letter that comes from the bank, and you look at the letter and you're shaking going, fuck, I don't want to open this because it's going to tell me my payment's been declined or it's been billed. And so the subconscious hits the fight and flight, and then you don't want to open the letter because subconsciously it thinks it's going to kill you, right? That's what happens. And so we build these stories. So a lot of the game, as I said, a lot of the games and processes start from a subconscious perspective. And that's why a lot of people go, oh, what games are you playing? Go, well, look, we're not going to tell you, not because we don't want to. We don't want to, we see a much better response of how you play the game of life if you don't know what's coming up. So it's not that we're trying to keep it secretive. We want to see your first reaction, because that tells us a lot of your identity. How are you responding in the heat? How are you responding when this happens or that happens? When we bring up kids, does something trigger you? And if you already know the game to be played, you can mask it and mirror it, and that makes it a bit of a challenge as well. So it's really born of a real witness of going. Probably the three big things, mate, that we see is men are really struggling with purpose and direction in life, and that's huge. It's huge, and you and I have had conversations about that before. So it's purpose and direction. The other one, and how that shows up is as I said, the depression rates in men, the suicide rates in men, the lack of enjoyment in life. They get home and they just want to go into their man cave, and then they sit in their man cave, which is fine. But then they sit in it, and then they mask up and they don't show emotion. So then the next thing that we see is that the complete lack of communication struggling in relationship, communicating with their kids. And that's a passionate one, especially with with what you're creating as well. Is it's so important to be a great role model. And if we don't know how to do that, and if we are directionless, then that becomes really hard. And the kids, your sons are going to model off you. Your daughters are going to model off what they expect in a relationship, or that's how I've seen it, so that's what I'm expecting. So the eyes are watching all the time, and they still watch, mate. They still watch at 19 and 20, right? Which is scary. So you're being constantly watched all the time. So, and the thing is tribe, and that's what you're creating, and I bloody well love it. And there's a lot of messaging going through the group that we're communicating, or the Awakened Tribe, and I'm pushing them through to come and join the Dad podcast, the Daddiest group, and listen to the Dad podcast as well, because, like you said at the start, there's so much collaboration, and it's so needed in this world right now. So there's a couple of things, but we can dive deeper, but that's sort of the things we see. And I suppose the outcomes we aim for is going, right, can we create a tribe? And we do. And we do that in a very unique way. Can we create more confidence and certainty in themselves first? And that's huge, mate. It's we had a couple of guys that were actually brothers. And I spoke to one of them the other day, and I just called and said, how you going? He goes, for 4 weeks now, he said, I haven't woken up wanting to commit suicide, right? And it's just like, far out, man. That's the profound impact. And he goes, for 20 years, I've woken up going, I just want to end my life. And he didn't have a great life. And he said, I see hope in the world. And this man who admits, he goes, I've never communicated. And he's a dad. So imagine the flow-on effect of that's what's happening is it and he's a dad, and he goes, I haven't communicated with my kids. I don't know how to talk to them because my dad was so toxic, unfortunately, and it's given him a new hope. He's wrestling with his kids. He's talking to his partner. He's opened up communication. He tells his partner, goes, look, this is going to be really awkward because I've never done it, but they're seeing massive hope. So that's the thing, is that he's got direction. He's got inspiration, but more importantly, he's got hope for himself. And if we can build that trust in themselves first, and the ability to even start the communication, it grows, and it's massive. So they get clear in their direction, and that's pretty exciting, mate. Huge. So a big woo.
So I just wrote about 2 pages of notes of circling back. So I'll start with the most recent, and it's super interesting how you said that, where purpose, communication, and tribe, right? That's why I think we're going to become so much better mates over the coming couple of years, because we've got the same vision and mission, and there's so many different ways that we can help to achieve it. And that, like that guy that you had a chat with, and it brings me to mind another mate of ours who's going down the same route. He's going to be on the show soon. Our mate Sam Parker, who's doing grab life by the balls, right? Suicide awareness and stuff with men, and it's it's starting to happen. Like men have been lost since about the Second World War. Like we have just been. We don't know what we are. We don't know where we're going. We're being emasculated. We're being all these things on, and then you throw in being a dad, and not only a dad that used to be the provider and just the provider. That's what we used to do. Now we got to be changing the nappies, doing the providing, shopping for the prams, changing bums. Like we do it all. And it's so important to note that this is not a slag on women at all. None of this has this is us. This is all about men. This is about what we're talking about, not about women are doing this or doing. I'm not even getting into that part. That has nothing to do with this conversation. It's just we are doing so much more these days. And in the book, which I will officially announce, I don't believe it's been announced yet, is called The Dad Playbook.
Woohoo! I'm on the podcast that you announce it on.
Yeah. In the book, it's really, there's a whole bunch of chapters. And what happens is at the end of every chapter, there's something to do, an exercise, something to call to action to get dads to be working on it. In the end, a 30-day challenge. So you put it all together in that 30 days. But what came up for me when you were just talking was with your mate who for 20 years every day was waking up, you know, I want to commit suicide, and now he's not, and that relationship with his dad. And we've all got interesting relationships with our own dads, whether they're alive now or not. And we dive deep into that into the book and go, is your relationship with your dad good or not? Because what I've seen, and I don't know if you'll agree with me here with your experience, is that most of us as men have not had great experiences and relationships with our own dads. Some do. I know a couple of my mates do, and I'm like so jealous, right? But not really. But I know that it is out there, but it's not the norm.
Yeah.
And
can I jump in quickly?
Diving deep into, yes,
sorry,
absolutely, yes.
Please. I'm one of those people that you can be jealous of. But what I was going to say is that, look, I had an amazing relationship with my dad. He passed away only 12 months ago, and I had the most, and you'll understand this. I was with him when he took his last breath, and I saw a man die an honourable, kingly death, and for me to have the honour of being sitting with him, my hand on his forehead, and actually listening to a song, which nearly, if I tear up, I'm not apologising for it. It was a song "Angel" by Sarah McCauley, and Dad had done some retreats with me in the years prior and created an even more amazing relationship, and we got to share some of those times. But when he passed away, the words were, "Can I find some peace tonight? In the arms of an angel, take me away from here." And that's when he stopped his breathing. And the thing I was going to say is that so I got to be there and experience this beautiful kingly death, and it was amazing closure for me. And I'm so proud of that moment, and proud of what Dad had downloaded and taught us. But he'd made a commitment. So my grandfather, though, he was in the rails for World War One, had no idea about fathering, left him alone, and Dad had made the commitment to himself that he wanted to do it differently. But I agree with you, mate. I'm one of the few. There's not a lot of men in it, and I've done a lot of men's workshops over the years, and there's not a lot of men our age that have had a great relationship, because those men were not taught themselves, and generationally we haven't had that ability. And you know, as we say, we on this podcast and we on this Facebook group and listening to this podcast are not only the change agents, we're the first line in our ancestry that are standing up to go, we've got to do things different because the world's getting fucked up, and our kids are going to have a massive influence from our dads. And you know, it's amazing. Like you said, the dads have got so much influence. The mums have too. They look up to go, what's this king going to stand like? What's this warrior? And you know, for your sons, they're going to watch everything, how you treat women, how you respond, how you react. Do you take a deep breath and let it balance out, or do you flip out into rage and are you a tyrant and all that sort of stuff? The boys are going to watch because they're going to know, they're going to go, well, that's how Dad did it, so I'm going to do it as well. But the girls are going to watch as well, because they're going to watch to see how you treat them and how you treat their mum or relationship or your partner or their stepmum. And they are going to go and find, and it's like the Imago match, mate. They're going to go and find men that do what you did to your partner or to them, because that's all they know. Right, so the influence we have, and that's subconscious, and that's what we're talking about, mate. That's subconscious at such a deep level. So no matter what you do, the arguments you have, how you clean it up, do you apologize? Do you stand over them in tyranny? Do you approach them with love? Do you get down onto their knees and talk to your kids? You know, do you wrestle? Do you play? Do you set boundaries? Those things are phenomenally important, especially young, but still when they get into the 15, 16, I know that, you know, my 17-year-old daughter watches how I treat Karen and how I treat that. And it's interesting, she's just had a boyfriend, and he's such a kind, loving, caring person, obviously then she's attracted to me, which is great. But that's the truth. They watch you over and over and over, and even when you think you're not watching, they're still watching. So, mate, but I agree with you. A lot of the men out there have not had great relationships with their dads, and if you have, be thankful. And again, that's one thing we talk about on the workshop is gratitude. And that's one thing that if you've had a great relationship with your dad, take a moment to just thank him, right? Because it's rare, and we're the change agent. We're the line in the ancestry that's standing up to create that change.
And I think it's really important to note there too. It's like, in a way, it's, you can really be grateful for your dad in any circumstance, whether it was a great relationship, which is easy. If it's great, it was easy. If it was hard, then, being grateful for the lessons that have been learned, even though they may have been really hard lessons. And then also, I think, once we become dads ourselves, we realize we don't have all the answers. Like when you're a little kid and you're looking up to your dad, you expect that your dad has all the answers. He's your dad. But now being a dad myself, I'm like, hell, I don't have a clue half the time, right? And I'm just making shit up. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. But I think for me, I probably did a very similar thing to when your dad was growing up as well. To sort of, it's like, you know what, I'm going to make a very conscious decision to do things differently. And it was I see my grandfather and how he raised my dad, and then my dad raised me the same way, which is what we just talked about. But that was a very post-war, don't talk, don't show feelings, don't say I love you, don't do any of that stuff. It was just a very provider type of role.
Yep.
Whereas in my case, I mean, on a daily basis, I'll tell my daughter how much I love her probably 10 times. Like, she's absolutely sick of it. And I'm so excited that she's so sick of hearing it, right? It's like that thing that I just want to make sure over and over and over again how much she knows that I love her. So it's just not something that I really got a lot of, and again, I'm not blaming him for it. It's just, he did what he saw.
Yep.
He did what he saw. So I learned a lot from that, and I take away a lot from that.
And so
let's go back to. Go ahead.
I was going to say, here's a question I was going to ask, and this is really for the listeners as well. Is it, absolutely wonderful, and I know your answer already, but this is more for them. Is it you go out and tell your daughter that you love her and give her hugs and all that stuff? I also know that you go out and you connect with the men. And this is the tribe you're building. You connect with men. We see each other. We give ourselves a big man hug. And it's not one of those thumping, the classic man hug is, thump, belt each other in the back, try and break 7 ribs each, and then struggle breathing for the rest of the day. You come in, you're right. But that's you see some of those man hugs. And that's the thing is it the vulnerability that you show to your daughter is amazing, and it's wonderful, and that's what we really want from here is going, you've got to show that vulnerability to the kids. And there's a great quote that's always gone around for a long time, that's like, your strength is in your vulnerability. And people are probably going, oh, what the hell, what are you talking about, vulnerability? And what we're really talking about, part of this is going, and I know that you come up and you connect with men, and you connect as in cleanly, you give them a great hug, and you can go on and solely know that you've got this tribe of men behind you. And that's what we're talking about here as well, is that we teach men about starting to open those lines of communication. And the biggest one and the easiest one, I suppose, they can start practicing on is their children, because they can relax and get out and dance. And the number of guys that text us or message, go, oh my God, got home. The next morning, I turned the radio on and my daughter dressed me up with a skirt around my waist, and I just boogied in the kitchen and danced like never done in my life before. The number of times that we get those sort of messages just brings tears to my eyes, because they go, thank you, thank you. I'm a dad. I'm back. And we get messages from their partners and all that stuff going, wow, he's back. He's so different. What do we need to do to keep the changes going? So just keep encouraging him to dance, do those little things. And there's so many little things like that. So the challenge with the men as well is, when we do, and we obviously dive deep into this, is about vulnerability and openness and talking, communicating. And one of the things that we actually do, and it's a bit of a fun thing to reveal, is that we actually teach men how to hug properly. But we have a lot of fun doing it, because we take off all the man hugs, the thumper hugs, and we demonstrate them, and we sort of go a bit over the top, but everyone has a big laugh, and they're all nodding, going, oh yeah. Or we've got the mother-in-law hug where, you go, oh God, it's the mother-in-law, do I have to hug her? And you try and avoid it, and we get them to role play that, and then we teach them, this is how you hug. We don't force anyone, we don't force anyone to hug, we don't do that. But by the end of the workshop, the men are really connected, and that's the thing, is they're going, I'm actually feeling. They can show emotions. They're talking more than mad, sad, and glad. And the question I was going to say to you is that, how far do you take that? How do you take that out into the community as well, to continue your growth? Because they're going to watch you. Kids are going to watch you. They're going to watch you when they're with them, but they can also watch you when you're with other people as well. There's a big challenge. It really is. So I know I'm answering your question for you. I know you take that out, and it's through that. Well, I'm assuming you do. Do you? Do you go out and still show that love and compassion out in the real world as well, or do you mask up once you step out that front door, put your mask on, and hide behind it? Because that, again, in itself is not good, because you want to be completely open, and that's what we teach you as well.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, because you do see it. I'm in a whole bunch of dad groups on Facebook, and a lot of it is what I see anyways, just a lot of silliness, which is good. But again, is it going to be silliness within the group? And then when you go out into the real world, because everybody in that group you may not know personally, they might not be in your neighborhood, but when you go to work, bam, mask is on. You're the man, the ego-driven man who can't show this vulnerability. And, I think you're exactly right, is that your strength is in your vulnerability. And it's such a dichotomy. It's such a thing that when you first hear it, if you haven't heard that type of sort of saying or whatever before, you're like, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Because vulnerable is being weak. Whether it's bad or good, it's still being weak. But no, it is so being strong. I think I put something in the group the other day about that, and how, vulnerability is the new strength. It is really where, and I can tell you this, how good is it when you can be vulnerable with your partner?
Amazing.
Like, how much does that change your communication patterns, and therefore your relationships, and therefore, men, your sex life? Like, seriously, it is huge. It is such a huge difference when you open up, be vulnerable. And, one of the chapters in the book is, if it's broken, don't try to fix it. Right? Don't those things, listen and communicate with fix everything like we do as men, and just be there. And it's such a huge difference. I was watching a Netflix comedy last night. I think it was Kevin Hart, and it's so funny because he was on there, and it's great because he's there and he's talking about his kids and talking about being a dad and the mom and the parenting. I'm like, Kevin Hart's talking about this stuff. This is great. And so I'm going to paraphrase, and it's probably not going to be funny, but I would suggest if you're on Netflix, go watch the latest Kevin Hart episode about it, or whatever it is. He says, women, you guys are amazing. You guys are unbelievable. The way that you can do everything you do is phenomenal, from raising the kids and breastfeeding and the waking up and then the nappies and the first few years of life is insane for you women. It is so amazing. But I can tell you one thing, what the kids never do is they never come home and say, I can't wait to play with mom. Right? Mom is not good at the playing part of things. Mom is the disciplinary, right? Dad is the one who plays, and he goes into this whole thing about it. I'm like, this is so perfect. Like, this stuff is finally getting out there. I think there's going to be a massive shift in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And I think, we're right at the very beginnings of it. So it's super exciting. Something you talk about, wrestling with the kids, is so important. Hey, like, is it your son 17 now?
No, nearly 16. So 15 and a half.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Nearly 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And, my daughter's now 8, and she loves the wrestling and the karate and the fighting and all of these things. And, I'm glad to hear that, because I'm thinking, man, when is that going to finish? When is that going to stop? When is she going to stop wanting to do that? But I don't think it'll be for quite a while. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I tell you that it's quite funny, Scott. I was just going to jump in. As youngsters, and whoever put the post, was either you or Evan, put the post on, and Adam, I think a great mate of yours and mine, Adam Smith, had said something about made a comment, and I just said, I said, mate, it goes to, he said about ganging up on you. I said, yeah, my kids used to gang up on me, and I said, now they gang up on me and don't do the dishes. So they always try and find ways to team up and take you down some way or the other. But I was going to share, as when the kids were all younger, the three of them would jump on my bed and just wrestle. And you've got to watch out. It's you've got 2 arms, so you can wrestle 2 when the third one comes in. they come in from a different angle. But look, as the 2 girls are my eldest, and my eldest is working full time away, and my 17-and-a-half-year-old doesn't wrestle with me anymore. It's not like that, but we'll still have the banter, and we'll be in the kitchen, and I'll give her a little nudge and a hip and shoulder, and she'll give one back. So it still happens, just not the wrestling per se. But you've got a good 3 or 4 years left yet, mate. So enjoy the time, and seriously, anyone out there who's never done it, it's so much fun. And I just want to share one. We do something like this on the Friday morning. We have this scenario and scene where we get the guys to crawl around, and then they just got to look at each other in the eyes, and that's very confronting as it is. And then after the first one, they go through and crawl, and then they're allowed to give themselves a little bit of a nudge, each other a bit of nudge before they move on. The third stage is they are allowed to hip and shoulder each other, and then the fourth stage is an all-out rumble on the floor. And it's so much fun. And we play rock and music and all that sort of stuff. And we played Black Betty by Spiderbait, and we just let them go. And the crew are in there. But the message about this, and I think this is the best take home. We had one guy who was 67, and he stood up and he goes, and it really brought tears to my eyes. He goes, "That's the first time in 60 years that I've had a rumble," right? And it was like, far out, man. That's just phenomenal. And he had the childlike enjoyment in his face was there, and that's the message, man. That's a big message I want to send out to the dads. Is think about when you might rumble all the time. Think about when you last had a rumble, and some of you might there go, "Oh shit, man! This last time my dad may have done it to me once when I was 5, right?" And think how you felt, and you laughed, and you enjoyed it. And I was so glad that Dylan came and jumped on me, as I said, when he did that the other night, because I was ready for bed, and it was just so good to just rumble with him for half an hour. And so think about that, like get in and rumble with your kids, boys and girls, because you can teach them boundaries. If they go and smack you in the nuts, you can just use all your weight and your strength as a dad cleanly to go, stop, that's a boundary, you do that again, and it's finished. So they start, you teach them boundaries. And I remember a long time ago, my ex-wife had said, "Don't do that, you're going to teach him to be rough." And I said, actually, no, I'm teaching him boundaries, and I'm teaching him how to play cleanly and not to hit, because when he starts, he was coming in knees into the nuts and fists into the face and all that sort of stuff. But as soon as that happened, stop the game, no, put it in the corner, the girls can keep running. And he had his time out, or we stopped completely if it was just he and I. Then he started learning his boundaries, what was allowed in the game and what was rough and what wasn't. And it's been one of the biggest shaping things for boundary setting for him as well. So, mate, here's the take-home message. Go and rumble. If you rumble all the time, go and rumble again, and just have that fun. It's childlike. You men out there, if you're worried about being a provider and all the stresses, I can tell you what, having a rumble like that will just make you forget about life for half an hour and get so connected with your kids That's what you're setting up, mate. That's what you're talking about how can we do it better as dads. That's what I know your podcast is about, the Facebook group, and this is a big one. It's big one, and seriously, you may feel a bit out of your comfort zone, going, "Oh, I've never rumbled." Just get in and start. Just get in and start to just, little hip and shoulders and tickle them, and it goes off, and it's, mate, you'll be laughing the whole way, except when they knee you in the nuts, of course.
And you mentioned earlier a little bit about, because with the sound of the drum, and I can't wait to hear that drum. I love drums, and I love the different sounds and tones and beats and didgeridoo. Oh man, that, like, you get a didgeridoo part, and it's just, whoa, it just opens you up. It's amazing. But you mentioned with that the masculine and feminine side. Do you want to go into just a couple of minutes about what your thoughts are, what you think around that masculine and feminine, and how that works? Because have talked a lot about that in the podcast, particularly around a book called The Way of the Superior Man, which I'm sure you're aware of. So give us your take on what you think about masculine and feminine and how that all works for us as men and dads in our world.
Look, the best way, it's such a great question. The best way I talk about it is dividing. See, men do masculine one way and women do masculine another way, and men do feminine and women do differently to what women do feminine. So I look at it as a real basic introduction into it. Masculine energies to me are the external things: strength, power, courage. Feminine energies are the softer side, the love, the compassion, the empathy, nurturing. So if we use that as a framework for what I'm explaining, then it probably, hopefully, will make a lot more sense. So the thing that men have been brought up with, and you're saying it's the hierarchy, and it's the long lineage that creates this, is that men have been taught that, if you be femi, oh, you're a femi boy, or it puts it down. It's also very derogatory to women as well. And so they're encouraged. The only thing they're allowed to show is their masculine qualities, right? So it's like, sit down, shut up, don't cry, you're a crybaby, all that sort of stuff as well. So, but the masculine energies have been, let's say, corrupted or more into the shadow side. So it becomes the tyrant and the bully and all those things that we see in the playground and in the workplace and all that sort of stuff, is a real misconception of masculinity. And with all the stuff going around with toxic masculinity at the moment, it really feels from my side that they're actually trying to make the clean masculinity wrong, right? And they're trying to make clean masculinity sound like it's the toxic one. So it's nearly becoming interchangeable. But you speak to women and they go, "What do you want in a man?" And they go, "We want a man who's strong yet vulnerable." And you go, "Hang on, like you said, that's the oxymoron. We want a man who's strong and vulnerable, who's going to speak his truth, but listen to us with compassion. We want a man who's going to stand up for us and, draw the line in the sand with his sword, or pull out the sword out of the sheath and stand in front of a woman and go, I'm going to protect you with my heart and soul because you're someone I love." Yet at the same time, they go, "But we want you to cry and be vulnerable," right? So really what it is that it's for me, it's going, you can do both. And I wrote a definition of what an awakened man is to me. And it's the both sides of, and I'm not going to use the word pendulum, because the pendulum to me describes the shadow behaviors to the clean-centered or grounded, masculinity. And that's what we've really got to promote. That's what we are promoting, is going, the grounded, centered masculinity is really, really important. I don't know if you've read a book called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover by Gillette and Moore. It's about the 4 archetypes that all of us have, men and women. The women, obviously, it's queen rather than king. But Gillette and Moore wrote this whole thing. And the king and the warrior is more like the masculine side, and the magician and lover is more the feminine internal side. But we go into that, and that's, getting your strong masculine, and I even use Eros energy as well. And a lot of people associate Eros just with sex, but Eros is really that whole masculine energy encompassing everything. So it's a question that could be a whole podcast, right? And but my whole view on it is going, we need to drop the tyrant, the bully, which is the mask. We need to understand why we become the tyrant or the bully or the wooden lover. It can be the opposite as well. We need to understand, go into it deep into our identity, as to why that's come up. And we've got to start coming from a place of grounded, centered, clean masculine power, but also tapping in to our feminine side, the love, the compassion, the empathy, the understanding. And we'll show that to our kids more than anything. So the kids are a great way. Well, we should be, and it's a lot easier to show that to our kids. And then we start building that into our primary relationship, into our relationships outside. So we've got to have a great balance of it. And, gone are the days, and it really irks me when you hear about it, but this is where it comes from. Toughen up, stop being a crybaby, stop being a wuss, all those sort of things. It's really about actually showing your vulnerability allows you to be stronger and cleaner, and protect your tribe.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I had thought that we would probably be in a lot of agreements on that topic. and I actually
very much.
You're funny. It's funny how you said this is a whole podcast episode. It's like, we're getting on now towards, time wise. And I'm like, ooh, am I going to open up this masculine feminine box towards the end of this podcast? I don't know, but I just thought I would throw it in there.
Just a quick summary,
we'll
mate.
Definitely have you back on the show. And I think
I'm losing you a little bit.
Understand it. Are you?
Oh, you're back on. You're back on. That's great.
Back on.
Yep. I'm losing you again. I was going to say, that'll be just the recording if you can hear me. Your recording will still record. So keep talking for a moment, and then I'll start nodding when I can hear you again. Got you back.
Understanding what that is. Now, hopefully, get you to tell us about your next
workshop. Oh, I think I even lost you completely. Right, now, Scott, I'm just going to stop my video. You should still hear me. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
Beautiful. Right, so I did hear perfectly. Said, tell us about the next program. So that was great timing for that to come back in.
Yes.
I'd love to, and thank you for giving me the chance. So we run the Awakened Man. As I said, we just ran the first one in Melbourne, and we've got the next one coming up on the Gold Coast, June 6 to 9. So it's a Thursday afternoon start with the participants going through till Sunday night. It is a live-in retreat, experiential growth workshop. So everything's looked after with the fee. So you've got accommodation, all the food's always great. We don't starve you. We don't wake you up at 2 o'clock in the morning to scare the bejesus out of you with a drum beat. I've been on those ones, and I've been on the ones where they decide to not feed you at all so that you can be under more stress. We come from a place of going, let's feed them, let's sleep them, because we do so much throughout the day that they don't need to be under that extra stress, and we want clear head and clear thinking. So it's as I said, June 6 to 9. It's called the Awakened Man. The great thing about it is my business partner Matt Ferris is who's on board. Scott, his wife is a chiropractor, so it's in the chiropractic family. They've got kids. He's come and set up for the same reason. Men are really struggling. The changes in him over the last 5 or 6 years since we started working, since I started doing some seminars with him, huge. So he's right into the dad side as well. So it's great having a business partner that's like that. So June 6 to 9, we've got it. The full price is $2,995. We've got a special deal for anyone who listens on the Daddiest podcast of $19.95. We do have payment options as well. I want to put it out there. Haven't told Matt, but even if you listen to this podcast in a year's time, just mention that it was on the Daddiest podcast. The Wake Up Dad Show, I should say, and the Daddiest. What do you call it? Daddiest podcast or Wake Up Dad Show? Because you said both.
Yeah, it is. It's the Wake Up Dad Show.
Yep.
That was born prior to Daddiest.
Yep.
But it is brought to you by Daddiest.
Yes, got it. Because I just see the meeting topic.
Yes.
I'm going, oh, you've confused me now. so even if you mention it in a year's time, and look, we are rolling out around Australia. We've got another event in Melbourne later on in the year. Next year, we've already got between the men's and women's workshops. And look, we're running women's workshops that are facilitated by women, run by women as well, with the same framework, but with the touch from the female side. But we've got 16 workshops planned next year, but we've still got to book more. We've been asked to go to America. So, and we also, when we booked some tentative dates for America, had a phone call the next day from someone saying, we can get you into Canada. So we're looking at coming over to the Canadian side of the world as well. And this is it's going to go global. And so that's where we're going. Got such a big vision, and we're going to need a lot of help as well. And it's a hell of a lot of fun. And like I said, the big things that we look at is really understanding a lot more about purpose. And we're not talking about saying, let's find your purpose in life. Let's find out what makes you excited about life, how you can do it better, how you can create a world that's based around that. Communication. And as I said, the big thing before about purpose is people are lost, right? And we want to help them to really discover what is great about themselves, how they can contribute to the world. Paint that whole picture of this is subconscious change, so that they can learn how to communicate better, be more responsive, be more present, and create a life that they want, and really empty out stuff that doesn't serve them anymore. So it's a huge 3.5 days, mate. Huge 3.5 days. So as I said, it's $19.95 for anyone on the podcast or on the Daddiest group. Just mention that when you contact us, either through the website, which is planetpersonalgrowth.com, or on Facebook, Planet Personal Growth, or as you're hearing this, message me, PM me on through the Facebook page, and we'd love to have a chat. And if you want to have a chat, give me a call, send a message, and love to have a chat to you as well.
Fantastic. That sounds incredible. So yeah, I'll be seeing some of you guys there, I bet, for sure. Can't wait. So thank you so much for being on the show, and let's call it a wrap. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott, and it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. And don't worry, we will be pushing the Facebook page of yours greatly as well, because there's lots of dads out there that need what you're offering as well. So expect an influx.
So what we'll do is we'll put a link to the website and maybe to whatever we're going to get from Clinton onto the show notes of the page and in our posts and things as we get the podcast out. So you'll have all the links connected right here from wherever you're listening to get all the information that you need. So thanks again, dads. You know what? We can do it better together. So let's get together. Let's make a tribe. Let's make it work. 1 million dads living consciously, collaborating together. See you guys.
See ya.
Thanks for listening. Remember, join our Facebook community, Daddiest. where conscious dads connect and collaborate.